It's Changemakers Circle on Click Niger online channel. My name is Ehi Ohiani.
Changemakers Circle is coming to you in collaboration with Skill Hub Consulting, an organization dedicated to improving the performance of development practitioners and organizations to reach their full potentials in changing our world for the better. Skill Hub Consulting.
Today we're talking about human rights advocacy through the gender lens. So you might be wondering, why the gender lens? Is human rights not human rights? Is everybody not a human being? We'll get to find all that out today. How CSOs have advocated to protect human rights in Nigeria. And I'm speaking with none other but Dr. Lydia Umar, the Executive Director of Gender Awareness Trust, GAT.
Thank you very much.
So honored to have you in the studio. She has led a whole lot of coalitions and groups to fight and advocate for change in our society. She has led the very, very important and great work that was done in Kaduna State around the VAP law advocacy in Kaduna State from start to finish. And today we have the VAP law in action in that state. She was also a part of the national panel on End SARS. And that panel sat for, about a year, over a year. That's a whole lot of work. She's also someone who has worked in the CSO space for over 2 decades. So you're definitely the right person to be speaking with us today.
Thank you.
It's an honor to have you. Looking at human rights advocacy in Nigeria through the gender lens, and I asked that question, why gender? Usually that is the reaction, or that is the question on the minds of people. So why gender? Are we not all human beings? Don't we all have human rights? So what is it about the gender?
That's
So why the gender lens?
Yeah. Here I'm so pleased to be in your studio this afternoon. And when I read your caption, empowering young minds, I was like, thank God I'm part of those young minds. Forget about the age. So you are empowering me also today by giving me your space to be able to share a few of the things we've been doing since the year 2000. Just before I jump onto your question, let me just say that before I got into the development space, I was actually a lecturer, retired as a lecturer in the Kaduna Polytechnic. I taught briefly at the Ahmadu Bello University and then left for Kaduna Poly, from where I retired. So I'm also a professional teacher, if I may say.
Wow.
But while I was teaching, I think I got involved with a few NGOs, and I was just serving as a volunteer. And what we were doing then was empowering women, specifically with skills, And then I observed something, that there was so much injustice, discrimination, particularly at the rural level, against women. And that made me to, in addition to my own personal experience, because when my mom became widowed, I know what she went through. So somehow I didn't know anything about development work, but I just said, when I grow up, I'll make sure that I stop this thing so that women don't suffer what they are suffering. So that has taken us to the angle of gender. Yes, human right is human right, and it's meant for everyone. Even by our Constitution, Section 42, subsection 2A, is the non-discrimination clause. And it assumes that everybody under that 1999 Constitution as amended will enjoy every right that every other person is enjoying. But that's not the situation, that's not the case. And I want to put what you said in the reverse. You said, is everybody not a human being? Yes, we all are human beings. But I want to say here that one of our slogans is that women's rights are also human rights. Why? Because in our communities and in the Nigerian society, which is highly patriarchal, there are so many that don't even believe that women have any rights. Go to the rural areas and you find that out. We have worked in communities, and even up here, some people don't think we have no business being in the public domain. For example, why should women be at the legislation? What are they there for? You know, and there's this unfortunate statement that was made by a highly placed person that the women should be in the other room.
The other room.
Very unfortunate. You know, so that is the reason why we are doing what we are doing, so that people will realize that women are also human beings and are entitled to in fact, they should enjoy their fundamental human rights. And the Constitution backs us up, in addition to so many international treaties that Nigeria is a signatory to. And Nigeria has also ratified so many of those things that give us a platform to know that, yes, we are citizens of this country and we are entitled to participate in every developmental sector of this country. So that's why we thought, since they don't realize that we have a right, let us be the ones in the forefront to advocate for it. Something that is supposed to be our right, but now we are advocating for it so that women can enjoy it.
The examples you are giving, you know, going to the rural area is even really far. Even within our social spaces, like on social media, you know, the moment a woman begins to get vocal to a certain level, you need to read comments. People start to remind you that you are somebody's wife.
Literally,
you should go back home and go and take care of your husband instead of coming here to embarrass yourself.
Oh my goodness, what a shame. So who is supposed to take care of who? Is the husband not supposed to take care of you also? And that is why gender is so important. People need to understand that the home front is meant for the family, husband and wife, even in terms of bringing up the children. I hate to hear people say, it's the woman's responsibility. So if the child turns out good, it's the woman. If it turns out bad, it's the woman. No, I didn't have that child alone. We had it with someone. That someone should be part and parcel of, you know.
So you have, you know, advocated for a whole lot of gender-related rights, and to a large extent you have succeeded. Yes. At least the VAP law is a clear and classical example. What are some of the big gender issues, you know, that you have seen in the fight for human rights so far?
Yeah, a lot of them. Starting with the very unfortunate but basic one where young girls are not encouraged to go to school. In fact, they are denied education. Let me put it more bluntly. They are denied education. Women that live in conflict zones are affected by conflict and by insecurity. But when it comes to the table where decisions will be taken on what to do, they are absent, they are excluded. All of that is gender discrimination. And when it comes to violence, I'm sorry to say, the impact of conflict on women disproportionately with men. And that is why if you go to any IDP camp, internally displaced camp, you find that over 90% of the people living in those very deplorable conditions are women and children.
But some people will say, well, that they are even lucky to still be alive, that you have women and children there because the men are even dead in the first place.
Not necessarily. I'll tell you why. We have experience. When you go to distribute whatever, whoever goes to do that, whether Red Cross or whatever, on that day you will see all the men out on the day of distribution of food. And I'm like, so where have they been all this time? Men are there. It's not like some of them are not dead, but they will always find their way. Always find their way. Sometimes in host communities,
Okay.
And then
they've integrated back into society.
Absolutely.
But the woman can't,
and because they carry themselves alone. But the woman carries all the children. So who will want to host you with 5 or 6 children in this hard time? So they just end up at these IDP camps. And what happens in those IDP camps is better not experienced. And so we observe that there's a lot of violence against women, and this heightened during the lockdown of COVID-19.
Yeah.
The figures are there, the statistics are there. Women were raped, women are still being raped, both in IDP camps. In fact, there's a slogan now that you have to sell sex to get food, the IDP camps. So that was what led us to thinking, no, we need to do something. But before then, I had acquired experience at the national level when we belonged to what is called LACVAO, the Legislative Advocacy Group on Violence Against Women. So we wanted this law to be passed at the national level, the VAP law. It was then Violence Against Women law. It was in the process. The men said, no, you cannot have violence against women's law because we too, we are being violated. But what is the percentage of the men that have been violated? And anyway, so we said,
and being violated by who?
If that is the only thing, let's change the name and go with what they want. Violence against persons, prohibition
law.
Yeah. So we did at the national level, and when it was passed, and in the character of our makeup in Nigeria, it's not like in the Francophone countries. Once they assent to something, or they sign up to something at the UN, it automatically becomes a law in their country. But in our own case, we have to again legislate it and domesticate it. So when we had the one at the national passed, we knew that it will not be applicable to our states. So there was this agreement. Now people should go back to their states and advocate and get the VAP law passed. So that was why Gender Awareness Trust led the process. Let me say led the process because it had to be collective. We had a lot of stakeholders, all key stakeholders were supposed to be part of it. So we led the process. Well, advocacy is about an issue, a particular issue, and you must be convinced and agree with it. And you know, at that time, I think we had only one female in the State House of Assembly, and nobody would even listen to her voice. So we needed to find a gender-sensitive guy, and we got one in the person of Nuhu Shad Al-Afia. So we worked with him, and it took us almost a year to get that law passed. But the question most people ask me is, you are not a lawyer. How comes that you push for a law and it got passed? I said, yes, because what you need is to understand
the issues.
The issue, to have the right strategies, and to connect with the correct target group, and then be willing to go for a marathon race. It's not like short time, it's marathon, because I don't want to go into that, but working with legislators and politicians generally from a civil society perspective is one of the biggest challenges that we have working. But God helped us, and we were able to do that. And in December, I think, 2018, the then Governor El-Rufai assented onto the law. Having been passed at the National Assembly, he had to assent for it and then to get it gazetted. And that's when it becomes a law. So now we have Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law 2018 for Kaduna State.
Awesome. Really, really awesome. For you, aside this, and I'm sure maybe you might want to go delve in a bit more, the most challenging part of advocating for human rights in a country like Nigeria.
Absolutely. I mean, I had earlier on mentioned that we can best describe Nigerian society as patriarchal. And even the local people say, everything now for the man now. That gives you the picture that the man decides everything, the man does everything, and peradventure you dare try it, people will frown at it because they believe that it's for the men only. That's why sometimes we respect people like you who go into male-dominated area and succeed. So congratulations. So the first thing is dealing with patriarchy and negative social norms and attitudes against women, traditional practices against women that keep them down there. Economic disempowerment. They are not empowered enough. Once a woman is not empowered, in the real sense of it, economic and otherwise, you know that it is not possible for you to thrive to any level, serious level. So for us, working for human rights and from a gender lens is particularly challenging in Nigeria because of the patriarchy and already mindsets of people concerning women, you know, the way society perceives women and the role they can play and the one they cannot play.
Or should not.
Should or should not. They determine what you do. I used to give example in my gender training that my husband was a medical doctor, me a doctor, but there are things that he would do and my neighbors will not frown at it, but when I do, they will be like looking through the window. So who is that? Where is the woman coming from at this time? And you know, they don't care to know that you are also working and that So that's one of the things. But for civil society specifically, one of our major challenges, you know, being able to get resources, raise funds for which to do this work, because the work needs funds. I'll tell you, just passing that VAP law exposed me to a lot of experience that we are very, very unfortunate that we depend so much on development partners, external. Our government does not even support what we do. So when you write a proposal, and not many people have the capacity to compete, you wait to get the funding. When you get the funding, getting the people that will be reliable and be convinced to go all the way with you is another thing. So, and then people sometimes pay lip service to these things. They hear, they know that we have a right, but they are not convinced in their hearts that really we should enjoy those rights. They are not convinced, no. So it's just lip service. And so you also have those kind of people. But when you start the actual work, you know, of advocacy, some people think you are doing what they call courtesy call. Courtesy call for politicians is normal. Is, you know, come to show solidarity, you have won. But there are two different things. And when it comes to legislative advocacy, it's even more challenging. Advocacy is about pushing for an issue that is against the tide, so to say. And you have to be sure that that issue is one that affects the majority of people in the community. It's not for you, it's not for your organization alone. And that's why when we say it is for women, we believe that we are talking for almost 50% of the population. So, and then the benefit is not only for women, and that's why we have that slogan that says women's issues are societal issues. They are not women's issues. Because if you empower the woman, definitely you know the benefit goes beyond the woman. And so we have those challenges of people really understanding what advocacy is and what they should be doing. I have a short example. When we received our latest commissioner of Women Affairs, we went to pay her an advocacy visit, and she thought it was a courtesy call. So when we sat and I introduced everything, and then I came up with 4 issues and said, these are the things that women in Kaduna State will expect you to focus on in the next 4 years. If you can do this and this and this, you will have moved us up somewhere. And then when I finished, thank you very much, Dr. Lydia. Thank you for that stuff. And then we gave her some materials and so on. And then It was like it is over with her. And I said, excuse me, no. You haven't given us your response. No commitment of any way, of any form. So you've got to, and then eventually she did. So that's just to tell you that you have to know what you are looking for and raise the issues. Sometimes you have to find allies, and they may be men, because if you don't work with men, sometimes you are just shooting yourself on the foot, because some men won't even hear you when you are talking. If you are a woman, it has to. That's why we are happy to have some men that are gender sensitive, like the one that supported the he's for she's. Yeah. So so those challenges are there. Plus the fact that if you are working with politicians, you can go 10, 15 times without achieving what you are. So that workload that was not meant to be for ended up being for over a year. But I'll tell you my greatest challenge. When I was searching for permission for them to have a retreat so that they can consider the draft that we have come up with, then they came up with the idea that they can only do it outside of Kaduna State. That in this place they will be distracted, they will be disturbed, that people are always coming around, so they need me to take them outside the state. Wow. And this was not in the proposal. And National Democratic Institute will not hear that. Bring more money because these people want to travel out. And yet I had waited for 6 months just to get the approval of the speaker for me to organize about 19 members to look at the draft. What was I supposed to do? To give up? For civil society, giving up is our last option. No. It's our last option. So I had to do a lot of things, and eventually we took about 19 of them to Kano State. Wow. For 2 days, just to look at the draft. That's just to tell you that you should be prepared. You should be prepared for the unexpected, and never assume. Never assume, even concerning women, that all women are with you. No, don't assume that. There are some women that look at us that do advocacy as, these are nuisances. What are they looking for? This Dr. Lydia, why is she like that? Why is she always, what is it? What is she looking for? They can't believe that it is a struggle that will improve our children that are coming and the young ones. If we don't do what we are doing, someday they may decide to lock us up in our houses, that we should stay in there. Yeah, so that is it. And one other assumption, in fact, a good example, when we were pushing for the VAPLO at the national level, I was on the team that used to go to the assembly. We went to a member of the House of Rep, then a lady, and we thought, this is our own. She will understand. At the end of it, can you believe what she told us? That I hope you people know that you are not the ones that put me on this seat. So you cannot come and be demanding and be holding me accountable for this. And all of us were like, oh, Jesus, what are we going to do in this case? So never assume that. Just look for people that are really convinced and agenda sensitive and are willing to go with you. And I was lucky, I found some, because on my advocacy team for that violence against persons prohibition law for Kaduna State, I had security agents, police, security, other security agents, I had traditional rulers, I had religious leaders, of course civil society organizations were there. So you have to put a very strong team. And everywhere we went and I spoke, that traditional ruler was able to put in a lot to say, if it is violence against women, that they experience it every day in their communities, and that goes a long way. But one other thing you must not go out on advocacy without doing is collecting your data and your statistics, because that's the only way to
having your facts right.
Having your facts right.
Because someone will quickly tell you that who said
how many people, how many women are raped, then you now say, see the statistics.
Some people said,
see the statistics and you present it to them. So those are some of the challenges that we have.
Awesome. Really, because you've really said so much about patriarchy. And now we have the VAP law in Nigeria and in many states. Kaduna State. I don't know how many states haven't
I think
passed
the VAP
it yet.
law has been passed for. There are a few states that have not,
yes.
But most have.
Yes.
Most have.
But would you say this has influenced patriarchy in Nigeria? Like this mentality, what is
mindset?
The aim? Exactly. What's the aim? Should we bother trying to change the mindset, or it's okay for us to have the law, even if the mindset is there? The law and this mindset and patriarchy itself, which is stronger? Do you understand my question?
I do understand, actually. Patriarchy is part and parcel of society. And sometimes I tell them we are not blaming the men, because they were also born to find it so. If you can take an example of a mother for that matter, calling her son and say to him, now that you are getting married, just make sure that your wife does not know the bottom part of your pocket. If not, so So we are not blaming the men. Society, through socialization, has done this. But now what do we need to do? We need to dismantle those patriarchal blocks.
Or is there progress?
There is progress.
Okay.
There is progress, and that is why you and I are out now. Many years back, you go to a school and you can't find. In fact, some courses in the university, you can't even find ladies there, girls there, let alone married women. But things have changed a bit. But the point that you are making is absolutely correct. It is not sufficient to have a law. That law must be lived. It must be living. It must be a living law. And that's where we are now in Kaduna State, making sure that the judges are using that law, in the courts, practically using it, and for sanction of perpetrators of violence, and then to compensate the victims and so on. So the laws must be active if they will mean anything. It's not enough to have a law and put it on the shelf and keep telling the UN or whoever cares to hear that we have a law against violence. That's not enough. So you must, first of all, you must popularize that law. Let the people know that there is a law against this kind of offenses, sexual and gender-based offenses. I think we had about 15 or 16 in our law. But if people don't know that there's a law on that, not just rape, even sexual harassment and many other things that people take for granted. You are passing in the market and somebody is doing this to you or doing this to you. I mean, there are laws against it. There are laws against it, but people need to know, and then the judges need to be willing to use it. The justice system, like the police that are usually the ones that will prosecute, I mean, that they need to know about these laws, and then people should be willing to break that silence. Let's keep it away. No, don't mention it. Yeah, the little girl was raped, okay. But if you talk about it now, it's a family issue. And if you talk about it, she may not find a husband in future, and so on and so on. So there's a lot to do in changing people's perception and mindset and empowering them to be able to speak out.
In terms of looking at human rights from the gender lens, what are some of the worst scenarios of violation that you have seen?
When I sat through that independent investigative panel on NSAS, and listened to people coming and narrate their ordeal, I knew that women go through a lot, not just in the hands of their husbands or in their family members, but also from the state. That's the police. They go through a lot. Yes, security agencies. And I think I almost got traumatized in my mind before we finished what happened during that NSAS, before and during, was horrific. And I think the National Human Rights Commission was just timely in actually setting up that panel, to look at all the facets of human rights abuses that happen. A young man is brought to the NSAS office at that time, and brought alive and strong and healthy. By the evening time, he's vomiting blood and foaming through his mouth, and in less than an hour he's dead. And nobody can, a lot of, I don't want to go into detail, but that is it. Even 2 days ago, before I came to Abuja, there was my one of my staff, in fact the finance officer, got a report, a 74-year-old man raped, is it a 12-year-old girl?
Now, when I hear such things, I'm like, you can't be 74 and just being caught. It means you've been raping for like
ages,
60-something years.
When you are caught, and they say this is my first time, and I just laugh. God is so gracious; He will never let you be caught the first time.
No, never.
Once they catch you, it means that you have been in that practice for long.
Wow.
Yeah.
If we were to solve the, gender violence problem in Nigeria, what are the stepping stones that you think must be unturned for us to achieve what we want to achieve?
Okay, first of all, you have to help people to change their attitudes and their perception about women generally, and put a little bit more value on us, and respect our human rights. Know that we also form like 50% of this population, and we are human beings to start with. Basically, we are human beings. So there is nothing except for this. Maybe in my gender training, I will tell them that there are just 3 things that separate us from the men. Yeah, only 3 things. The man is the one that impregnates a woman. You cannot do it. A woman cannot do it. But that's the only thing he does. The woman becomes pregnant, put to bed, breastfeed the baby, not care for the baby. Anybody can care for the baby, breastfeed. That's all. Any other role that is played by men can be played by women. Aside these 3 that I have mentioned, any other one is a gender role. And anybody can. And I'm happy to see the things that are happening in society now. Go to the salon and see how men are doing the.
And they're really good at it. Many women even prefer men to make their hair.
Well, so first of all, work on the attitudes and the perception of people and the mindset that people already have. And then for civil society organizations, as much as possible, put on your feminist goggles and begin to dismantle all these patriarchal.
That's the word
blocks
that many people don't want to hear.
They don't want to hear, but they have to hear. And all that is saying is that I am
a woman
in protecting the women's rights, no matter what. That is all that it is. It has different shades, and people want to bring the one from America and so on when they were going around with bra and pants and saying we are. That's not what it is. But we also have gotten to that level. There is the African Feminist Forum and there's the Nigerian Feminist Forum, and I belong to one of them. And so we say we are feminist, full stop. No but, no if. You understand what I'm saying? So you have to just get to that level so that you can always look at things with a gender lens. What is this thing that you are doing now? How does it impact on men? How does it impact on women?
Be fair or be...
It's about justice. It's gender justice. Be fair to both sexes. In the first place, who determined their sex? No one. You are born a woman, you are born a woman. Nobody should make you regret
why you
or feel ashamed of why you were born a woman. No, nobody should do that. And you can do as a human being what every other human being can do, except for the sex roles. Those are the only 3. Because no matter how much your husband loves you, you can't say, bring the pregnancy, let me help you carry it.
Small.
He can't.
Or
let me go to the labor room for you. He can't. Neither can you say, oh yeah, like that, let me give you the belly. No. So these ones are set. They are God-given. They are basic. They are fundamental. They are natural. Outside of these three, any other thing you can think of, whether it's sweeping, it will not burn your beard. Whether it's cooking, it will not burn your beard. Whatever it is that I'm doing, you as a man, you can also do, and so also vice versa. So we need to just do a lot of sensitization, a lot of training, build skills for women. Women need skills. They can't negotiate. They can't, sometimes you feel like, are we really winning it? But we are. I'm telling you, because even women at the rural level now, to some extent, they know they are right.
Awesome. Really, really insightful speaking with you, ma'am. I mean, this conversation can go on and on and on. I've been talking with Dr. Lydia Umar, the Executive Director of Gender Awareness Trust, GAT, and I did let us know earlier. I mean, she has said so much about the VAP Act, the VAP law in Kaduna State, being at the forefront with her organization of ensuring that this became a law in the state, and also being a part of the NSAS panel in Nigeria, which she has shared her experience with us. Changemakers Circle is being done in collaboration with Skill Hub Consulting, an organization that is all out to empower development practitioners and professionals in Nigeria with the best of skills.
Changemakers Circle is coming to you in collaboration with Skill Hub Consulting, an organization dedicated to improving the performance of development practitioners and organizations to reach their full potentials in changing our world for the better. Skill Hub Consulting.